Welcome to episode 2 of our FD RX7 build presented by Turn 14 Distribution, where today we're finishing up the engine bay and turning the key. As you guys would have seen in the previous episode, and if you didn't watch it yet, you'll want to go back and watch that because we covered a lot of ground, including basically dressing up this long block, if you can call a rotary a long block, with all the accessories, you know, the upper intake manifold, the throttle body, and of course this beautiful front mount V-mount setup from Greddy. Built out a nice little custom intake using vibrant parts, and really made a ton of progress, cleaned everything up, we vapor honed stuff. It's a big episode. Go watch it and then come back and watch this, and you will see this car start by the end of this episode. I do want to mention that this car already looks amazing, and if you go back and see the car when we first got it, it was like a 13,000 Canadians, call it $10,000 car, which I know is very cheap by today's standards, but we bought it quite a few years ago before the market went nuts. It had a non-running engine. It was black with destroyed paint and a big dent in the back. So it has come a very long way since then. And it's really exciting to see it with this in the engine bay now. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed the transformation so far, and it's gonna look amazing by the end of it. So stick around. It's only gonna be 4 episodes, we hope. So it's gonna be quick, guys.
There you have it. Our exhaust system is complete, and it is a bit of a mishmash. As you guys saw, we did install this Trust Greddy PE-TR. You might as well call it a Peter exhaust DP here. Nice canister, 80 mil, has this like Helmholtz resonator, I think that's what it is. I'm sure to reduce drone. And this is a used mid-pipe. And why do we have a used mid-pipe? Well, someone may have forgotten to order a mid-pipe. That's right. So we quickly found this one online and scooped it up locally. And truth be told, I'm actually happy with it. It's got a big Magnaflow resonator in it. So this is certainly gonna quiet this car down quite a bit. And up front here for the downpipe, we didn't have one that came with the turbo kit, so we decided to fab up our own using some vibrant parts. You can see it's all tacked up, and it's all 3-inch, and I feel like I'm kind of proud of it, DP. Look,
it's amazing.
It was kind of like minimal bends. It almost looks like a pro did.
It really
Other
does.
than the welding, we are going to leave the welding to Vin over at NV Auto, and the only reason I want to do that is the last time I tried to weld the flange that bolts to the turbine housing, I warped it. So at this point, I'm like, I'm gonna let Vin weld it. He can weld it properly. He's gonna put a heat sink. He'll do it right. He'll back purge it, and he'll make all this work exceptionally well. We did put in a flex section here. I think that's a good thing. I saw a couple downpipes that didn't have it, but post in the comments if you guys think RX7s need them or not.
Jumping back into the engine bay, and we are going to install a battery tray from JP3 Motorsports. This allows you to use a very compact, PC680 sized battery in the stock location, and it comes very complete with new grounding cables and brackets and hardware, designed specifically to work with this Greddy top mount intercooler, or I should say V-mount intercooler. It actually moves it over slightly to give room for the battery to be in the stock location. So we're gonna get down to installing it now, and we'll show you how it looks. And oh, by the way, we will have a small battery that goes in here later in this episode because we will need a battery to start this car. Well, we've got that JP3 kit in place now, and we do move the intercooler over there a couple of inches with brackets that they supply. It does make the filter over here quite tight, but it does still fit, so that is a bonus. However, underneath, we did have to redo this duct on the left side, I guess you'd say. The one that we just built, we had to remake because everything shifted over that way, and we also had to relocate the Greddy one on this side. So it's all fit up now though, and it wasn't horrendous, but it is some work. And as for the rest of it, it's all in place here. So we're now just waiting for that battery to arrive, and we'll be done with that setup. We are now moving on to one of the bigger jobs on any project like this, and that is engine control and engine wiring. And if you watch the engine build series from a few years ago, you'll know that we teamed up with Haltech for engine management and wiring using their Elite 1500 ECU. And man, what a beautiful compact little unit this is. And of course, Haltech, being based in Australia, have very deep roots with the rotary community. They've been controlling rotary engines around the world for a very long time. So we felt like this was the right solution for this car, especially since they have a terminated engine harness solution. And this is it in this bag. And as you can see, it is all nicely terminated on the engine side. However, it's really designed more for, say, a race car application, because the other side of the harness is non-terminated. So it doesn't just plug into the chassis harness and control all the factory gauges and all that kind of stuff. So there would be quite a lot of wiring involved to make that work with a factory dash setup. And as we looked deeper at it, we thought we really want to simplify this, make this a little bit more plug and play. And so we reached out to Haltech again, and they have this really clever little solution that converts from their Haltech plug system that plugs into your ECU over to the factory engine harness, plugs in there, and you literally now have a plug and play Elite 1500 in your RX7 using the factory engine harness. However, when we looked at our factory engine harness, it is old, it has been hacked, and so we started to think, why don't we just replace the OE harness with an OEM style replacement harness? And for that, guess who had this Rywire OE style replacement harness in stock? That's right, everybody. Turn 14 Distribution came to the rescue. And man, look at how simple this is. I mean, it is a very nice, clean little setup with like high quality heat shielding and stuff on it, all labeled and terminated as you would expect an OE, replacement harness to have.
Even though the engine bay hasn't changed much, progress has been made. As you guys just saw, Vin did weld up the downpipe for us. We did wrap it. We also put this PTP heat blanket on here that we sourced from Full Race, and it is specific for the EFR, just again to keep heat away from anywhere there. The Rywire harness went on very nicely. We did add a Haltech map sensor, an IAT sensor right here. After doing a bunch of research, we have figured out that the factory fuel filter, which is in the rear, is not adequate enough for a filtration standpoint for a tuned rotary engine. So what we have done is we have upgraded to a radium fuel filter. This is their micro glass, like 5, I think, micron fuel filter. So this is their highest point of filtration, which should be adequate for what we are going to do. Speaking of fueling, we are also replacing our primary injectors. We had a set of Deutschwerks 950cc injectors in there, and our tuner told us, listen, run a set of IDs. These are the best on the market. He can input the data. He's gonna be remote tuning this car, so he's gonna be able to really dial it in right away from the get-go with a set of these injectors that he trusts more so. So we will still keep the 2200cc Deutschwerk secondary injectors that we have because they're not as important from a fine-tuning standpoint as these are. And guess what? Turn 14 came to the rescue. They had these in stock, shipped down here in a couple of days. So thank you, Turn 14, for always having the things that we need, because in these scenarios, when you're building a car, you never know what you want to change. Ideally, what we should have done is spoken to the tuner before we put all this stuff together, but this was a long time ago. So we're just gonna make these adjustments as we need. So as you guys can see, the fuel filter is all the way up there. And what we are now doing is we're gonna loop the line to just get rid of it. We don't want to have two filters. That seems redundant. I don't know if that's going to reduce flow. So we're just going to take this line here and loop it onto the return line here, and we'll be done. Now, as for the fuel pump, we are looking to upgrade it as well because we don't know what's in here. And interestingly enough, look at this. It looks green, which is the exact same color as our AM pump that we're going to be using, the 340 liter per hour one, but the design looks a little bit different. So this in fact is an AAM pump, you can see, but this is their 320 liter per hour version. So this is an older model that I don't even remember, truthfully. This has got to be a couple years old. I think at this point, with that brand new motor and everything else, it makes sense to swap it out and not risk it. Like, who knows how long. We got to drain the fuel out of this thing too, because who knows how long the fuel has been sitting in here. Who knows if this pump is gummed up or not. Like, it really is a little risky. Yeah, the fuel kind of smells varnishy, which is not a good sign. So the new 340 liter per hour AM pump is in. We use these brackets from Core Components, as you can see here and here, to mount this pump. They're meant for a Walbro, but they seem to do a good job. I just had to reverse the mounting position. So before it was mounted like this, now it's mounted like this. I don't think it's too big a deal. I looked, the filter still has enough adequate room to sit in the tank properly. This is a good reminder of the importance of checking your fuel, because we just pumped all this gas out of the tank, and man, I have not seen fuel this black in a while. It certainly smells like varnish. Look at this. Look at this. Yeah. Like, why is it so nasty and green looking? Like,
there's a lot of sediment in it too.
Yeah, I have not seen fuel like this in a long time. So anyways, pro tip, before you go starting your very, very expensive motor, make sure you've got good gas in it.
The fuel system wrapped up, we are jumping inside here to install our Haltech Elite 1500. This is the right choice for a single turbo 13B like we're running, but if you want to run the sequential turbos, then you need to go to their 2500. I don't know how many guys would want to do that, but anyway, obviously we're going single turbo, and this 1500 is more than powerful enough to do the job for us. And it includes some really nice race grade features like anti-glag, launch control, traction control. It offers VE tuning, which is why it includes that intake air temperature sensor, just in case you don't have one on your motor. And of course, it has all the other key features that you would expect from a modern ECU like this. For guys like us who don't do a lot of this kind of stuff, it just lays everything out very cleanly, very simply, and it makes it so easy to like figure out how to wire up. Let's see, you want to wire up your your temp sensor. Well, here's all the wiring, here's the pin it goes to, on what connector. Like, it's all just laid out there very cleanly, very simply. What started off as a request for a Deutsch connector has ended up with us bringing the car to Nam here,
who is essentially our wiring guru of NV Auto. He had some good suggestions for us in terms of wiring up all the sensors, and really our big thing was we needed a Deutsch connector for the Haltech ignition harness, and we had to wire it in directly here. So Nam actually told us we needed, he did a relay here, right?
Yeah.
To connect everything else up, and just did things the right way.
Yeah, so we've added a relay for the to power up for the 12 volts of the coil ignition packs, and also the wideband controller, and which is fused here. And
which is a good thing to have, right?
yeah, you're gonna need it because we're not sure, especially with a car this old and a JDM car, we don't want to rely on the factory wiring to power up the ignition, especially on these cars from factory that didn't have a coil pack like this setup.
Yeah, and ignition's so important on these cars. Vibrant parts have arrived from turn 14, and we can now complete our whole intake system here, as well as our intercooler piping. And we did have an AAM filter here, but the Vibrant one is just a tad bit smaller, which is kind of nice. You can see it's super tight now that we have that JP3 relocation kit for the battery that's moved this over, but this is gonna live here really nicely. I am gonna rotate this DP. See this piece here?
Yeah, you can't have that metal
This
seam
is
on
the
top.
pro tip.
Yep,
You do
yep.
not want that seam up there. You kind of want it.
Unacceptable.
There you go, hidden nicely like that. And as for the intercooler piping, here's the thing. Greddy supplies these two pieces here and here, and they are this blue color, and I really like it. I do. I was sold on it. Fortunately, they only supply on this side, and you can't get it on this side. I actually ordered the Vibrant blue couplers, but they do not match. The color is just slightly a little bit darker. So I'm going to an all black setup, as you can see here. And the beauty with the Vibrant stuff is these aren't 3-inch to 2.5. This was like I think it was 3.25 to 2.75. So it's kind of odd sizing because it is metric, but Vibrant happens to have all of it. So it worked out really well here. And now I don't remember which way I had this piping. You can see we have this 2.5-inch upsize from a 2-inch 90-degree coupler here from off of the turbo, and it's gonna go like that, and then this is gonna live in here. So there it is, set up properly. Man, that is looking mighty fine. One other thing we did do is we purchased a brand new, what is this, like a coolant air separator tank for the coolant. We ran the hoses as well. The Greddy supplies the clear stuff, but it's a little too 90s for me, so we went with this stuff. It's also from Vibrant. It's just their 400 series hose. Also arriving is our battery here. This is a Mega Life battery from Buddy Club, and this is a full lithium ion battery. Weighs a whopping 5 pounds, people. We're trying to reduce the front weight on the rotary here. Beauty of this is, though, it does have 730 cranking amps, but what I really like about this thing is, look at it, it has a button up here, and this button, when activated, activates a reserve cell inside the battery and gives you 250 cold cranking amps. So if you leave this hooked up, and let's say you leave the dome light on inside your car and the battery's dead, then you can come back, hit this button, and this will bring the battery back to life because it does have that reserve cell, activates that reserve cell, so you can crank it, fire it up, and then let the alternator charge it. So it's really cool feature that this thing has. They're also, reading the website, it says they also, say that these do last a lot longer than conventional batteries because they are lithium ion, so like 8 to 10 years. So it's a kind of like a buy it once and forget it deal. The one thing you do have to be careful with is you do need a proper lithium ion battery charger if you do want to charge something like this.
Exciting times here, guys. We are finally at the point where we're putting fluid in this motors, which means we are getting close to firing it up. And for break-in, we've just thrown in some of Valvoline's conventional daily protection, non-synthetic motor oil. Joe, our engine builder, and I think really pretty much any rotary engine builder recommends breaking these motors in on a non-synthetic, and then if you want to switch to a synthetic after it's run in, you can go ahead and do that. And I'm also grabbing some Max Life ATF, and you might be like, hold on, DP, you guys didn't buy an automatic RX7, did you? Did they even make them automatic, PT?
They did.
Did they?
They did, yeah.
Well, luckily for us, we did not buy an automatic, but turns out the specification on this is what the power steering system needs. So we are completely dry. I mean, this car had nothing in it after being stripped down for body and paint and all that. So just topping it up with this Max Life ATF which, like I said, meets Mazda's specifications for the power steering system. And Valvoline is literally the #1 brand in North America for ATF. So we have a lot of confidence in this product. We use it in all of our automatic transmission vehicles. Obviously the Tundra is full of it, Pete's 4Runner is full of it, and now our power steering system in the FD is full of it too.
All the fluids are in and we are ready for a first start. At least we were until I noticed this, the dreaded coolant leak. We've looked all the way around and it's not coming from the top or the side of the engine. It's coming from behind the flywheel, people. So guess what that means? We now have to take the gearbox and everything else apart. So after we do that, we'll show you what we can see. But before that, let's just cut to us removing all of this. The gearbox came off quite easy. There's tons of access here, which was nice. It was refreshing because I was really not looking forward to doing it. And we do have our culprit where coolant is leaking, and you can see everywhere. Like if you look up here, from this stud here, there is coolant all the way around here. And essentially what is happening is these tension rods, which are the studs, which are the equivalent of like head studs, have these little washers on them that have a rubber seal that are supposed to seal the coolant. But maybe, just maybe, what I'm thinking is happening here is these are just a little bit bigger in diameter than the ARP studs or something of that sort, of that nature. We just did check Elliot's from TurboSource's website, who has an install procedure on theirs, and he does say to put some silicone behind these. So at this point, I think that is going to be our option. So unfortunately, what we're gonna have to do is, loosen each and every one of these off one at a time, put some silicone on it, and then bolt it back on, and then do the next one and go all the way around. We are down to the last stud here, and if you look up, there is a lot of blue. Can I call this silicone, DP? It's a gasket dressing and sealant. It should not be called silicone. It is an anaerobic sealer. And this is apparently what you want to use for a job such as this. And what I'm doing is using my Picasso brush here, because trying to do it with your finger does not work very well. And I'm just getting it into that groove along there. And then we will put the rubber washer back on and then come in and tighten it back up. And we've been doing this one by one, as I mentioned, and it seems to be working well so far. So Dave just came up with a brilliant idea of why not fill the cooling system right now, and then we can 100% certainty know that we don't have a leak in the back. And that's exactly what we're gonna do. So far, our vacuum is holding steady. It's dropping just ever so slightly, but that's normal because of like the minor leaks in here. So I'm just gonna crack this open. We're gonna fill this system up, and then we'll do another recheck here. So it looks like we are good. As you can see, no leaking of the coolant here. And just like that, we are back to where we started only about a day later, which is unfortunate because I know we promised you guys that we would be starting this engine up, but we have run out of time, sadly. This just seems to happen more often than not, DP. We say at the beginning of the episode, we're gonna get this thing started, and then it doesn't.
Calamity happens.
It doesn't happen. Something like this happens. So we do apologize. In the next episode, the first thing you will see is a first start of this vehicle. And get excited, people, because this thing has come together. It is still a rotary, and that is my kind of like unknown factor. You just never know. Are we going to blow an apex seal? Is it going to run great? Who knows? So stay tuned to the next one. And as always, if you're liking the content, certainly think about subscribing and hitting that like button. It does go a long way in helping us in the algorithm and more people reaching us.